Shalom, my Hebrews and Shebrews. This is Oilfield Disciple. We're fitting to do our daily bread. Welcome to all who have been here, and welcome to anyone who is new to the channel. As per our daily bread, we just read the scriptures, and I give commentary as the Holy Spirit gives me utterance. But really, this is we just learning to be diligent to daily read our scriptures. We read one Old Testament, one New, one Psalms, and whatever the proverb is of the day. So, with that said, we are at Genesis 47, and we'll be reading Mark 15, Psalms 46, I believe, and Proverbs 25. So let's get busy with some reading, and hopefully no one calls me. Already done this once today, about halfway through, and got called. So this is take two. Bereshit 47. Also, if you're new, I read the Scriptures version of the Bible. It's similar to the King James, but it would be the King James if you went and looked it up, the words up in the Strong's Concordance is the translation, and then it reads kind of it flows similar to, I guess you'd call ESV or one of those real easy to read Bibles. Anyway, Bereshit 47, verse 1. Then Joseph went and spoke to Pharaoh and said, My father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds, and all that they possess have come from the land of Canaan. And see, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took 5 men from among his brothers and presented them to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to his brothers, What is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, We have come to dwell in the land, because there is no pasture for your servants' flocks. For the scarcity of food is severe in the land of Canaan. And now, please let your servants sojourn in the land of Goshen. Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Mitzrayim is before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know of capable men among them, then make them chief herdsmen over my livestock. Joseph brought in his father Jacob and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, How old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The days of the years of my sojourning are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not reached the days of the years of the life of my fathers and the days of their sojournings. In other words, he's saying I'm not quite as old as my fathers were. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers and gave them a possession in the land of Mitzrayim and the best of the land in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided his father and his brothers and all his father's household with bread for the mouth of the little ones. Now there was no bread in all the land, because the scarcity of food was very severe in the land of Mitzrayim, and all the land of Canaan became exhausted from the scarcity of food. And Joseph gathered up all the silver that was found in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they had bought. And Joseph brought the silver to Pharaoh's house. And when the silver was all spent in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan, all the Mitzrites came to Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the silver's gone. Come on now, Joseph, hook us up. We ain't got nothing. We done spent all our silver. Hold up. What else you got? Verse 16, and Joseph said, Give your livestock, and I give you bread for your livestock, if the silver's gone. We can work out another arrangement. See, that's what we need to get ready for in this culture. The other day, just to kind of resupply uh, what we'd been consuming, I went to the grocery store to buy some meat. Hamburger meat was $7 a pound. Bottom round steak was $13 a pound. Now, prior to this, a month ago, hamburger meat was about $2.50, $3. This is not prime hamburger meat. This is 80/20 cut. Bottom round steak was $3.99, $4 a pound. It's $13 a pound now. This is 1 month. This is within 1 month. Right? The oil prices have crashed. The um, price of gas at the pump was what was it, 2.59 when all this started. I'm seeing $1.59, $1.69 for gas right now. Um, Things that need to be up for our economy to be doing good are down, and the things that need to be down for our economy to be doing good are up. So we're going to have to start learning to barter with one another, and this is basically what this is. We're going to trade some cows and some sheep and goats for some bread or for some grain, wheat, and that whatnot. Verse 17. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for their horses, and for their flocks they owned, and for the herds they owned, and for their donkeys. Thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when that year had ended, they came to him the next year and said to him, We do not hide from my master that our silver is spent, and my master also has the livestock we owned. There has not been left any before my master, but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and let us and our land be servants of Pharaoh, and give us seed, and let us live and not die, and let the land not lie waste. They finna trade their freedom for food. You feel me? I've stated since the beginning of this, as we read the scriptures, as you read the scriptures in this study, not really a study. Um, when you're diligent to read your base 4 or your base 10, you know, um, for y'all that are new, for 6.5, almost 7 years now, I have read 10 chapters a day. That's 3 old, 3 new, 3 Psalms, and a proverb. And for sake of the time frame on these videos, I've lessened it down to the 4. Um, Most oftentimes, the scripture I'm reading correlates with something not every day, but most days, it correlates with either my spirit being twisted, being out of shape, my spirit being joyful. Um, it correlates some way, somehow. I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, this is pretty well hitting what we are fixing to be facing here in this nation. Not only in this nation, but the whole world is fixing to be facing a famine. Um, we better pay attention. Verse 20, And Joseph bought the entire land of Mitzrayim for Pharaoh, because every man of the Mitzrites sold his field, because the scarcity of food was severe upon them, and the land came to be Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he moved them into cities, from one end of the borders of Mitzrayim to the other end. Only the ground of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had from what Pharaoh gave them by law, and they ate that which Pharaoh gave them by law. Therefore they did not sell their ground. And Joseph said to the people, Look, I've bought you and your land today for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall be that in the harvest you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and 4/5 is your own, as seed for the field, and for food, and for those of your households, and as food for your little ones. And they said, You have saved our lives. Let us find favor in the eyes of my master, and we shall become Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Mitzrayim to this day, that Pharaoh should have 1/5, except for the ground of the priests only, which did not become Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim, in the land of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and were fruitful, and increased exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Mitzrayim 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. And the time of Israel to die drew near. And he called his son Joseph and said to him, Now if I have found favor in your eyes, please put your hand under my thigh and show loving commitment and truth to me. Please do not bury me in Mitzrayim, but I shall lie with my fathers, and you shall take me up out of Mitzrayim and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I do as you have said. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him, and Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. I've got to look into that. Maybe y'all have already looked into it. But that putting your hand under their thigh and swearing an oath, that's the same thing that Abraham told his servant to do to go get a wife for Jacob. Or was it Jacob? No, Jacob had a servant. No, it was Abraham. It was Abraham. Um, but I don't really know what that signifies, and so might be an interesting study to go. I've been meaning to do it for a long time. I haven't done it. So if y'all have insight, shoot it down there in the comments. If not, might be something interesting for you to go look up. Let's get to Psalms 40. Where are we at? 45 or 46. Let's see when I get there. 46. Tehillim 46. Psalms 46:1 says, Elohim is our refuge and strength, a help in distress, soon found. Therefore we do not fear, though the earth reels, and mountains topple into the heart of the sea. Let its waters rage and foam, let mountains shake with its swelling. Selah. A river whose streams make glad the city of Elohim, the set-apart dwelling of the Most High. Elohim is in her midst, and she does not topple. Elohim does help her when morning turns. The nation shall rage, and rain shall topple. He shall give forth his voice, and the earth melt. Yahweh of hosts is with us. The Elohim of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Come, see the works of Yahweh, the ruins he has wrought on the earth, causing all fighting to cease until the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariot with fire. But still, I know that I am Elohim. I am exalted among nations. I am exalted in the earth. Yahweh of hosts is with us. The Elohim of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. If you're new to the channel and you don't know what Selah means, Selah is to stop and meditate on what you just read, on what was just given to you. Proverbs 25. It said, as we read this, the Holy Spirit gives me utterance during certain things. If not, I'd never get through this because I would just go off on tangents left and right. Mishle 25 verse 1 says, These two are proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, sovereign of Yehuda, copied. It is the esteem of Elohim to hide a matter, and it's the esteem of sovereigns to search out a matter. The heavens for height and the earth for depth, but the heart of a king is unsearchable. Take away the dross from silver, and the vessel comes forth for the refiner. And dross is the waste, the impurities when you melt down silver or gold. Um, it'll float up to the top and you just rake it off. So that's the dross. Read, Matt. Take away the wrong from before the king, and his throne is established in righteousness. Do not exalt yourself before a king, and do not stand in the place of great men, for it is better for him to say to you, Come here, than that you should be put lower before a noble whom your eyes have seen. In other words, when you go somewhere, don't put yourself in the best place. That way you don't get your feelings hurt. Um, it's quite embarrassing to sit down and somebody come say, yeah, this person here is a little more important than you. I need you to move on back. It'd be better that you're sitting back and they come and get you and go, hey, here's where you belong, man. Verse 8, do not go forth to strive in haste, for what would you do in the end when your neighbor has put you to shame? Plead your case with your neighbor himself, and do not disclose the secret of another. In other words, don't be out running your mouth, telling secrets, making up blabbering stories about people, hearsay. Lest he who hears, at least he who hears it put you to shame, and your evil report turn not back. A word spoken at the right time is like apples of gold in settings of silver. A ring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a wise one's reproof to an ear that hears. Like the cold of snow in time of harvest, is a trustworthy messenger to those who send him, for he refreshes the life of his masters. He who boasts of his gifts falsely is like clouds and wind without rain. Through patience a ruler is persuaded, and a soft tongue shatters the bone. Have you found honey? Eat only as much as you need, lest you be satisfied with it and vomit. Make your foot rare in your neighbor's house, lest he gets enough of you and hate you. A man bearing false witness against his neighbor is like a club and a sword and a sharp arrow. Trust in a treacherous man in the time of distress. Trust in a treacherous man in the time of distress is like a broken tooth or a foot out of joint. One who takes away a garment in cold weather is like vinegar on soda. A singer of songs on an evil heart. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat. If he's thirsty, give him some water. For you are heaping coals of fire on his head, and Yahweh rewards you. The north wind brings rain, and a secret tongue, an enraged face. It is better to dwell in the corner of a roof than in a house shared with a contentious woman. That's the problem with today's culture. Hey, everybody's got these contentious women. Well, I gotta ask my wife first. My wife won't let me do that. Uh, it's not the way it is. Now, you don't be caveman, me man, you woman, and drag her around by the hair. You respect and love your wife, but you're the head of the home. That ought to make a few mad. Anyway, like cold water to a parched throat is good news from a distant land. A righteous man who gives way before the wrong is like a muddied spring in a ruined fountain. It is not good to eat much honey. Is it glory and honor to seek one's own glory? A man who has no control over his spirit is like a broken down city without a wall. Kind of what I was saying. Men are emasculated today. They're beat down. The woman rules the household. The women rule the streets. Um, you always hear a woman that is not of Yahweh out there just running her mouth, and she needs to learn. She needs to learn a place and be quiet. Yeah, I know that's not what y'all like to hear. Some of y'all are understanding. Some of y'all new. If you're new, you may not have heard that before. That sounds like I'm a what do you call that? A male chauvinist pig. I'm not. I trust me. You can ask my wife. I have all the respect and love for her. I don't do anything to disrespect my wife. Um, and most oftentimes we make decisions together. But at the end of the day, Yahweh holds me responsible for my household. Yahweh holds me responsible for um, where my house's direction is going, and not my wife. And therefore, I'm responsible for all decisions. That's every man. All right, before I piss everybody off, let's Mark 15. And immediately in the morning, the chief priests had a council meeting, and the elders and the scribes and all the council, having bound Yeshua, they led him away and delivered him to Pilate. Right. We've just arrested Jesus the night before, and here we are. And Pilate asked him, are you the sovereign of the Yehudim? Are you the king of the Jews? And answering, said to him, You say it. Chief priests accused him of much, but he made no answer. Pilate again asked him, saying, Have you no answer? See how much they witness against you? But Yeshua still gave no answer, so that Pilate marveled. And at the festival, he released to them one prisoner, whomever they were asking. And there was one called Barabbas, chained with his fellow rebels, who had committed murdering in the uprising. And the crowd, crying aloud, began to ask, as he had always done for them. But Pilate answered, saying, You wish me to release for you the king of the Jews, the sovereign of the Yehudim? For he knew that the chief priests handed him over because of envy. And the chief priests stirred up the crowd, that he should rather release Barabbas to them. Pilate answered again, and said to them, What then do you wish me to do to him, when you call, whom you call the sovereign of the Yehudim? Again they cried out, Impale him. Pilate said to them, Why? What evil has he done? And they vehemently cried out, Impale him. Now, vehemently cried out, they are extremely vocal about this. It's not, well, maybe impale him. No, they're like, seriously, impale this dude. He's wicked. We want Barabbas. Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas to them, and having whipped him, he delivered Yeshua over to be impaled. And the soldiers led him away into the court, which is in the palace, and they called together the entire company of the soldiers. They decked him with purple, they plaited a crown of thorns, and they put it on him, and they began to call out to him, Greetings, King of the Jews! They're mocking him severely. I want you all to take this to heart. When we make claims and statements of what Jesus can do and what he's supposed to do and what it means to me, we're mocking Jesus. Think about that. Verse 19, and they kept beating him on the head with a reed and were spitting on him. Bending the knee, they were bowing down to him. Just mocking the hell out of him. You know, it's like fifth graders picking on the new kid. The part of the crucifixion that frustrates me is this right here. Not that Jesus died on that cross. Not that the wrath of Yahweh was poured out upon him. Yes, that bothers me because of my own sin. That because of my sin, that had to happen. But I count it joy, and I find joy that our Lord and Master Messiah, Yeshua, would willingly go to the stake, the cross, and allow all this so that you and I can be redeemed back unto him. That's joyful. In Isaiah 53, Yahweh says it pleased him, or Isaiah says it pleased Yahweh to crush Yeshua. The mocking of the way the soldiers treated him, and those who even followed him the week before and claimed to love him, that's what bothers me about the crucifixion. That's what bothers my heart. Because knowing full well, I've done the same. Knowing full well if I was in that position, I'd probably be doing the same thing. Most people, oh, not me. Not me, I would have been the one standing up for him. No, you wouldn't have. Because you're not now. And how do I know that? Because you don't follow his commands. You mock his commands. Oh, that's been done away with. We don't have to do that. I love eating bacon. I love eating ham sandwiches. I don't have to keep the Sabbath. Christmas is the greatest time of the year. Okay, keep mocking him. Well, don't tell me that you would be standing up for Yeshua if you were in that position, if you were there then, because you ain't standing up for him now. Verse 20. And when they had mocked him, they took the purple off him and put his own garments on him, and they led him out to impale him. And they compelled a passerby, Shimon, a Cyrenian, coming from the fields, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to bear his stake. Now, Rufus is one of the last ones named in Romans 13, in a long list of men who helped build the church. And I don't know if this is the same Rufus or not, because it just now kind of dawned on me. Um, and the reason Rufus sticks out is because when you go to Romans 13, we'll go read it here in a minute. Let me finish this up, and then we'll go look at it. Verse 22, and they brought him to the place, Golgotha, which is translated place of a skull. And they were giving him wine mixed with myrrh to drink, but he did not take it. And when they impaled him, they divided his garments, casting lots for them. That's a prophecy of David in Psalms 22:18. They divided his garments, casting lots for them, what each one would take. And it was the third hour, and they impaled him. And in the inscription of the accusation was written above, the sovereign of the Yehudim. Bold letters, all capital, the King of the Jews. Verse 27, and with him they impaled two robbers, one on his right and the other on his left. And the scripture was filled, which says, from Isaiah 53:12, and he was reckoned with the lawless. Unquote. Verse 29, and those passing by were blaspheming him, shaking their heads, and saying, Ah, you who destroy the dwelling place and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the stake. And likewise the chief priests and the scribes, mocking to one another, said, He saved others. He's unable to save himself. The Messiah, the King of Israel. Come down now from that stake, so that we see and we'll believe. And those who were impaled with him were reproaching him. And when the 6th hour came, darkness came over all the land until the ninth hour. And at the 9th hour, Yeshua cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is translated, my El, why have you forsaken me? Psalms 22:1. And some of those standing by, when they heard it, said, See, he's calling Eliyahu. And some ran and filled a sponge with sour wine, and put it on a reed, and offered it to him to drink, saying, Leave him, let us see if Eliyahu does come to take him down. And Yeshua cried out with a loud voice, and breathed his last. And the veil of the dwelling place was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the captain, who was standing opposite him, saw that he cried out like this, and breathed his last, said, Truly, this man was the Son of God. Truly, this man was the Son of Elohim. And there were also women watching from a distance, among whom was also Miriam of Magdala, and Miriam, the mother of Jacob, the less, and Joseph, and Shaloma, who also followed him and attended him when he was in Galilee, and many other women who came up with him to Jerusalem. And when evening had come, because it was the preparation day, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Ramamathiam, a prominent council member, who was himself waiting for the reign of Elohim, came boldly and went in to Pilate and asked for the body of Yeshua. But Pilate wondered whether he was already dead. So summoning the captain, he asked him if he was already dead. Now see, Pilate sends his captain. It wasn't like Pilate was there watching Jesus die. Pilate had other things to do. He sentenced him to death. Pilate's off doing his other duties. But he wants to make make sure that we don't prematurely bring him down, so they nurse him back to health. And now we got a problem because now my command has been broken, and I'm gonna have to do a whole lot of killing. What do you mean by that? Well, when he gives a command to his guards and his captains to do a job and they don't get done, those guards and captains get run through with the sword. And so he's making sure that Jesus is dead. But he also is making sure that everyone's dead before they take him down. Verse 46, and he, having bought fine linen, took him down and wrapped him in the linen. And he laid him in a tomb which had been hewed out of the rock. And he rolled a stone against the entrance of the tomb, and Miriam from Magdala, and Miriam, the mother of Joseph, saw where he was laid. Where are we at? 30 minutes. Let's finish Mark. And when the Sabbath was past, Miriam and Magdala, and Miriam, the mother of Jacob, and Salome, bought spices to go and anoint him. And very early, on day 1 of the week, they came to the tomb when the sun had risen. All right. Here's where we get Jesus rose on Sunday. We get our sunrise services. We pay homage to the sun, and we claim, oh, well, this is what it means to me. Jesus was 3 days, 3 nights in the belly of the earth, just as Jonah was 3 days, 3 nights in the belly of the whale. How do we die on Friday, raise on Sunday, and get 3 days out of that? Little simple math, first grade math ought to take care of that. Anyway, something for you to go study. And they said among themselves, who shall roll away the stone from the entrance of the tomb for us? I mean, it took some Roman guards to roll that up there. They didn't just, a couple of guys didn't just put this stone up there. And looking up, they saw that the stone had already been rolled away, for it was extremely large. And having entered into the tomb, they saw a young man sitting on the right, wearing a white robe, and they were greatly astonished. And he said to them, do not be much astonished. You seek Yeshua of Nazareth, who was impaled. He's raised. He's not here. See the place where they laid him. And go and say to his taught ones and Kepha that he is going before you into Galilee. You shall see him there, as he said to you. As they went out and fled from the tomb and were trembling and bewildered, they spoke to no one, for they were afraid. And we've walked with Jesus. We've seen all these miracles. We've seen him do all kinds of stuff, even raise the dead. And Jesus has been telling everybody, I'm going to die, and then I'm going to be raised up. 3 days, and not one stone will be left upon another, but I will rebuild it, right? All this stuff Jesus is telling them, and they don't get it. And now they see with their eyes, and they're still like, what? I don't get it. So before we're too hard on these people, equate that with our own selves. Verse 9, and having risen early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Miriam from Magdala, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. She went and reported to those who had been with him, mourning and weeping. And when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they did not believe. Yeah, I mean, a woman's, in that day and age, a woman's testimony was for nothing. It was completely worthless. Another reason why, if you're going to make up a conspiracy, you gather all the facts and all the supportive truths that you can get to support your conspiracy. You don't do something like this. And after this, he appeared to another. And after this, he appeared to another form, to 2 of them, as they walked and went into a field. And they went and reported it to the rest, but they did not believe them either. Later, he appeared to the 11 as they sat at the table. The 11? Yeah, Judas done tossed the money back at the Pharisees and went and hung himself. And he reproached their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they did not believe those who had seen him after he was raised. And if you read the NIV, that's the end of it, of Mark. And he said to them, "Go into all the world and proclaim the good news to every creature. He who has believed and has been immersed shall be saved, but he who has not believed shall be condemned." Okay, maybe this is the end if you're reading NIV and don't have verse, I think maybe 18 and 19. Anyway, this is cut short in NIV. It's been a long time since I read the NIV. He who has believed and has been immersed shall be saved, but he who has not believed shall be condemned. And these signs shall accompany the ones who believe. In my name they shall cast out demons, and they shall speak with renewed tongues. They shall take up snakes, and if they drink any deadly drink, it shall by no means hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall get well. Then indeed, after the master had spoken to them, he was received up into heaven, and sat down at the right hand of Elohim. Psalms 110:1. And they went out and proclaimed it everywhere, while the master worked with them, and confirmed the word through the accompanying signs. Amen. They proclaimed the good news everywhere. Everywhere they went. And Jesus confirmed the word in them. Jesus didn't just leave his disciples. Remember he said, "I will never leave thee nor forsake thee." How come here in this cultural Christianity, churchianity, religiosity that we live in today, our goal is numbers? Our goal is how many people come to the altar and say this little bullshit prayer, asking Jesus into my heart, and then no one disciples them beyond that. That's what's the problem. That's the problem is today. Nobody is discipling. Discipling means walk with and teach and pour into this person everything that you have knowledge of. Go read Elijah and Elisha. That's what happened there. That's a perfect example of discipleship. Elijah, for a time, poured into Elisha all that Elisha was going to need to continue the ministry. That's what we're supposed to do. But we don't do that. Let's get them saved. Hope we see you next Sunday with your paycheck, or, with your checkbook. It's ridiculous, man. It drives me nuts to watch the operation of the so-called church today. Anyway, before I get off on a tangent, hope this blessed you, encouraged you, and inspired you to go look this up for yourself. Let it frustrate you, some of the things I said, to go look it up for yourself. Find the truth. Seek ye the truth. Seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all this will be added unto you. And know that when you ask the Father who art in heaven, anything that you wish, he will give it to you. And that's a promise. But see, when you're operating in Yeshua, when you're operating for the Lord, you're not going to be asking for stupid stuff. You're going to be asking for things that will further the kingdom, and that's what you'll receive. Now it starts to make sense, right? Go read. Y'all be blessed. The soul-filled disciple, and I will catch you on the next ride.